So I had y'all do this survey, and this survey was is about, I gave y'all 8 students, right? And these 8 students, I purposely ignored the race. I didn't want to give y'all race because a lot of times when we think about affirmative action, we think about something that's race driven. But affirmative action, as y'all heard from the videos, hopefully, it's white women benefit from it the most. So I'm smiling because I always smile, but this is a very serious topic. So white women benefit from the most, and affirmative action actually started with labor. It started with contractors, not universities. So we gonna talk about that later. So specifically with the university is because that's the first thing that triggers us. So I had y'all do this a little assignment because that's the first thing we hear. So I'm gonna pull up the survey responses and I'm gonna see what y'all said. And like I said, I'm gonna judge y'all. Now it doesn't say your name, so don't take the judgment. Don't take the judgment personally. And then I added another question to it. The question is very similar to the form y'all filled out, and it's basically asking y'all how y'all feel about affirmative action. So we have a wide range of people here. We have a lot of people that went to college and universities, like PWIs, and we also have some people that went to HBCUs. So, catch it. So right here, y'all chose student H as number 1. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pull up students. So we got student H, student E, and student A. And whoever chose student H, y'all mind raising your hands?
As one? As one?
As one. Oh, no. Matter of fact, in general. So I'm gonna pull up student H's background. So student H says they got a 3.1 GPA and they got a 600 on the SAT scores. Not only that, they say that they are immigrants and they're in a social drama club. So does anyone want to talk about why they chose student H?
I chose student H because student H kind of reminded me of myself. I'm not from this country, I was born here, so I immigrated from Guyana. I was in drama club in high school. I didn't start it, but I was in drama club, and similar GPA, like 3.2, 3.3. I didn't get a 1600 on my SATs, but I don't know, something for me connected with student H. Like I felt like student H, student H for me just was a relatable student for me, so that's why I picked student H.
Gotcha. And this is not just a question for you, this is a question for everybody. I gave you the average GPA scores and SAT scores. Student H is a little bit lower than the average GPA score, but that was ranked number 1. Is that for you? Was that driven by your personal value? You felt connected to them?
I felt connected to them because coming to this country, if you're an immigrant, you now have to learn a whole new culture. I don't know if they have to learn a new language. Fortunately for me, I spoke English. So it's a lot. It's a hard reality when you come to this country that you have to get, affiliated with the culture here as well as the school system. So that's why it spoke to me, because student H may have been a 3.7 in their country, but here it might have been a little bit different. So that's why I picked student H.
Gotcha. Anyone else chose student H? Y'all could go,
I chose student H mainly because of the immigrant status, and they highlighted how he or she talked about the experiences that shaped their identity and inspired them through storytelling and advocacy. My grandparents are immigrants, and I think similar to what you said, like the grit that you build from having to work through the obstacles, and to do that while maintaining a great GPA and a great SAT just shows that there's a level of commitment, consistency, dedication to performing well. At least that's what I got from there. I never really paid attention to the drama club piece, but more about the storytelling and advocacy.
The stories what did it for you. Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, I picked student H. I'm not an immigrant. I'm a first generation, but my parents came here for better education. Something that I've heard from them is that, and seen with my own eyes, in different countries we don't get the same opportunities that are granted here in terms of education, work, and all that. So I can see why those who come to this country to look for something to better themselves and make a legacy for their family, I have a sympathetic feeling for that, in a sense, you know, because they are granted the opportunity to get the education here, knowing that there's not as many opportunities back home, or maybe they come here to support the family back home. In a sense, you know, so I've seen experiences like that, and that's what made me consider this to be in a rightful position to accept.
Gotcha. Anyone else want to chime into that?
Yeah, I'll say I chose H mainly because the operative word was drama club, and that to me seemed more of like an orator. And when it comes to blackness, there are varying degrees of blackness. Oftentimes when we associate blackness as what has been mentioned, it's usually the power of resilience. You know, my father, and we all have those stories across the board, whether you're an immigrant or not. What matters though is understanding and defining what those demarcation lines culturally and otherwise matter, you know, in regards to how one tells the story. Because we all have stories and we all have struggles. But how and where you fit within the variation of blackness is really the determining factor that makes you, you know, excellent, better, or whatever. It gives you that badge of blackness that makes you shine, you know. But we all have it.
Does it matter the type of immigrant that they are?
I mean, obviously, right? But again, your pain may be my pleasure. I may find a thrill in the power of resilience because I had to read with the light on because I had no electricity. But it doesn't mean that I didn't read the same amount of effort, or I didn't have the same amount of effort in reading that I did in your situation. It just means that how we measure that is always determined by cultural indifference.
Gotcha. Anyone else? I see facial expressions.
I want to follow up on that question.
Dance.
You said, does it matter what type of immigrant? I want to run it back. So you're saying it doesn't matter, or it does matter, like the type of immigrant?
Well, I mean, like I said, it obviously matters, right? Because your ecology growing up in Caribbean or wherever. So basically, when I got to Florida, I lived in California.
Yeah.
I never knew there was a Haitian or Jamaican. That's basically my ignorance. But I grew up in a common area where black people, black folk, were black folk. I had no idea that they were, I mean, I was young, very young. But when I got to Florida, it was a cultural shock. There was Trinidadians, Jamaicans, Bahamians, different variations of black folk, right? And the one thing that stuck out in my mind when I was hanging out with the Jamaicans was, oh, the black American, them lazy, man, them lazy. And that really struck a chord, because it was as if they didn't understand the history of black folks and the civil rights. So there's always an argument and a demarcation line when it comes to the struggle and the variations and the varying degrees of struggle. But it's never blackness in the sense of a tacit consent. Hey, I'm African, you're African. It's always my struggle because I'm a first generation, second generation. There's always these nuances and minutiae that matter, but I don't think overall it matters in this grand scheme of what we call the diaspora.
There are different types of immigrants.
That's what I was going to say. I forgot
That's the
school.
point. There's not
Yeah.
just black. And you don't know.
Well, we have to then define. We have to come up with a definition of what is black.
But I think
that from black
and it's about immigrant. So like you could be an Asian immigrant, you could be an Indian immigrant, you could be a European immigrant. So like if you're immigrating from a country that is English speaking to America, you might have an easier transition because you understand the language.
Yeah, but what's easier? That's what we're measuring.
But say
From a European nation to America, you have a different experience from as those who are immigrating from a first, black and brown country. Like, when you come here as a European immigrant, you're coming here and you're being told, you're being stripped of your identity, of your culture, you're being placed in a community of a culture of your own. whereas you're coming from a black and brown country, you're coming over here to America, there's a struggle that you experience. There's, some of the people that I, interact with who've immigrated from here, their experiences, like, they're at the top of their class. They're not entertained by drama. They want to go into the arts and sciences because that's what they're bringing back home. So I didn't pick H as one of my applicants because I'm just like, no, I don't think here you will be a black student or someone who I want to enroll into Black Oaks Rock University.
Yeah, but we still don't know the race, and we could say the same thing applied to the Pilgrims.
Yeah, they were white. Yeah.
Yeah, but he never said they were.
But I'm just saying, like, if you're saying, like, any person who immigrated here to America, they all have an experience here.
I'm not negating that.
No, I know. No, we accept that they have an experience as being told, right? We accept that they have an experience that can be communicated through the arts or, storytelling and stuff like that. But this right here does not scream as someone who I would like to enroll into Black Folks Rock. I don't see anything culturally driven here. I don't see anything here that's driven by race. Like, you don't have to have race here, but your experiences here, if you immigrate here, you will put something in here like, okay, it's just like I don't know, nothing here, just
Are we acclimating them into blackness?
So let me ask you this question. Did you look at it from the perspective that it was Black Folks Rock University? Okay, so you were choosing it as like looking for black people.
I mean, I'm also HBCU grad, so yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think that's important to realize. Like, if we're looking at something for admitting students, like, what are we prioritizing? We're prioritizing their narrative, we're prioritizing their academics, or we're prioritizing their race, right? I think that's always
That's the whole centered around blackness. What is blackness? Is it based on your immigration status? Is it based on your struggle? And again, the qualifiers were never white or black. It wasn't based on race.
Race was not disclosed, and that was intentional.
I was going to say, I think taking race aside, we're talking about academia. So we're talking about what's going to be, if I have the control of my school, I want to enroll the most likely student to contribute and fulfill the commitment, matriculate through the process at a high level and become a highly productive person in society. I would love for all of them to be black. I actually didn't consider Black Folks Rock University. I just was more so like if I had a school and these were blank students, pieces of paper, and resumes, who would I make more say? And I think the immigrants stood out mainly because of the obstacles they probably had to go through to get what I see is very impressive, like as a resume.
I heard the word immigrant, but that's locked because the word was used here. But like I said earlier, you all are picking the best students that you think will do well in the university. And a lot of the reasons why I'm hearing is stuff that relates to you. If you are, so I'm just gonna be frank. If we're not in the HBCU, and this is a predominantly white institution, do you think they're looking at it from that lens?
No, that's the problem. I think the problem is a lot of the people that make decisions in collectively the system that we live in, from academia to professional workspaces. The people that make decisions and develop the archetype aren't us, so we're never gonna fit the mold per se. So especially in America, your identity is going to be challenged in any space you're in, because the people that make the rules don't look like you. Which is why like getting people into state and local government, all those things are really important, because you have impact at like a regular level in the world. You can't like start at the top. As much as I love, I'm gonna get on top of it, as much as I love like Barack Obama being the president, he can't affect my day-to-day life with decision making the same way like my state, my mayor.
Yeah.
So I think like similarly, you need black people in the admissions offices.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
You're not gonna have that same opportunity.
And I think this whole experiment that I had you do, I think it's naturally rooted in bias. I think we're picking people based off of what we can relate to.
Like a meritocracy?
I don't know what that word is.
Like a merit, based on their merit.
Oh, just merit, but also, no. A lot of us said we related to their experience as an immigrant, which is why we chose student H as one. So does anyone want to speak more on student H? Why they chose it?
Well,
I chose H as my third student. Can I talk about the other students I chose?
Yeah, go for it.
So I chose B and C as 1 and 2, and then I chose H. It took me like 15 minutes to choose H after choosing B and C because that's when I started to really, the first thing when I looked at it, I looked at like things that I relate to, and B or C or all of them. And then I thought I related to B and C the most, and then they had solid GPA, solid SAT scores. And then after that, I started struggling to see who I was going to choose as my third student. So then I started to look at, go deeper into what they said, go deeper into their GPA, compare it to the average, compare it to the SAT score. But the reason I chose H is because of the storytelling, and I thought they would have a good story to bring that into the school, that they would come to the school. So that's why I chose it. But H was my last pick.
Got it. Last of the three.
Yeah.
Got it. Who chose E? Wait, let him go first.
I didn't pick him first though, so someone else. I didn't pick E first.
What's the biggest?
I think third.
That's fine. Why'd you choose E? That's the question.
That's fire. It's like 3.6 GPA, 1490. Develop machine learning code for the future 500 company. Talking about cybersecurity, like tech is such a big thing. So to see them put in so much work in at what I assume to be an early and young age, it's really, I have no doubt they're gonna do great things.
Did you lead with the GPA and SAT score?
No, the machine learning and then the cybersecurity stuff, that was, I think, the most, it just felt more relevant to me. I like tech, so this seemed like something that was really interesting. So
does anyone need more copies of the paper? You got it.
And the SAT score now is out of 1,600, right?
It's out of 1,600, correct. Yep.
Back in the day, it was like 20,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
Who else wants a copy? Who else chose E? Oh, you chose E.
Yeah. Oh, well, I chose E because I like how they developed the machine learning code for Fortune 500 company. I don't know, for me, I saw it as a young genius. So this is somebody who has a lot of potential, they can be molded, they're going to do great things. So I felt like for me, if they're coming into my university, they're going to be bringing a lot to my school, and I need someone like that.
Gotcha.
That's such a funny thing to say. I chose E, student E as last, because I thought statistically this person was somebody who already had the advantage. If you have an opportunity to be an internship at a Fortune 500 company, that's not somebody that is coming from the hood, basically. Like, that's not an opportunity that's afforded to a lot of people. So I said, that sounds like it.
I taught Asian. I taught maybe Asian or Indian. That's what
I saw the advantage in being able to work at a cybersecurity. That's not an advantage that I see in my community a lot. So I automatically was like, they have an advantage over me as an admissions representative. Then they have over the rest of these students. They don't even need a college at this point if you're doing this. You don't need I chose legal less. Can I get a job?
Yeah, E was my last choice as well. Because 2015, I got a chance to go to one of these $10,000 schools, and it was for 10 weeks. They didn't even offer diplomas.
He could hack the school at this point.
No, not necessarily. No, it was. I suffered a lot of racism. That experience overshadowed a lot of my education. Didn't mean that I'm weak or that I just couldn't take it. But I mean, there's a crippling and debilitating effect when it comes to, you may be smart, you may be whatever, suave and black and all this, but when you enter into those spaces, racism has an effect that a lot of people, I mean, I would say that you can't diagnose every trauma that happened with slavery. And I'm not using that as an excuse, but what I'm saying is that the disappointment I got was that there weren't many people like us in that space. So it was like, I could develop something, but I want my people with me to develop it, to move forward. So it's, you're dismayed, you're disappointed. It's like, I want the camaraderie. I want my people. I don't want to just be the one, but you want to see other people there that look like you. not based just on representation, but you want to establish something without the effect of having to be a cog in somebody's wheel. And just because you change the paint of the cog doesn't mean that it's cool.
Is that a mindset that you want people picking students to go to the university? That don't look like you. So it's great if it looks like you, but let's say if it's a white person and they have that same mindset.
No, it's an ideological indifference. And that's diametrically opposed to what America is and what it potentially could be. And that is Pan-African, Black Power. That's a very fine, and that's a demarcation line that you're not going to necessarily get credited for, or people are going to agree with you. Because people want to fulfill the status quo. And what does the status quo affirm? It doesn't affirm Black Power. It means that you're just going to be chosen and picked. So
I think your question is a little not loaded deliberately, but I think there's something behind it that I think has to be addressed in the sense that I think it's unfair to equate or what's wrong with equate works where you're saying black people making decisions based on the treatment. If white people did the same thing, white people don't have a reason to do the same thing. So it's not like quite equitable. So it's like our I think this conversation with like whiteness is like they're like this pendulum swung or swinging to try to correct something. They're like, whoa, this is too much correction. Let me come back this way. Would just further create like the system that we're trying to fight against. So I don't think they don't have the privilege, or they shouldn't have the privilege to think that way. Sorry about it.
That's the thing. So one of the videos earlier, we were defining DEI, and these people on the news were saying, I don't even remember what they were saying, but it's like, it definitely doesn't stand for what it stands for us. They feel like they're being excluded, they're being attacked. And so I would say, pretty frankly, that white people, a lot of them, maybe not most of them, I don't know the statistics, but a lot of them want to victimize themselves because they feel that something's being taken away from them when things are being given to people like us. So,
to be fair to white people, right?
we are.
I'm gonna be a very subtle white, not sympathizer, but just I think you have to look at issues and problems as they are and be able to address them accurately. So as a white person, you went through a country that treated you like you were God to everything else, and then 60 years ago was like, nope. These niggas is on your side now too, and you better treat them as such. That's a jarring change for a white person. I'm not excusing the treatment or response to it. When Ta-Nehisi Coates talks about this, in order to have conversations with them to bring them to the middle, you have to acknowledge that their experience was like, oh, you're telling me something that was once property is now on my level. So when you're talking to them, you have to keep that in mind so that you use the right verbiage, the right rhetoric, so that you can capture their attention and hopefully move them to a proper direction. Because the goal, I don't think, is to prove a point. The goal is to change the narrative, to change the treatment. So I don't really care about points being made. If you're going to change your behavior, and I can have a conversation with you, a dialogue to you, to walk you more towards this side, and if it means I could be if I could change the verbiage slightly to get you there, I'm okay with that.
I agree with changing the narrative, but to bring myself down, okay, I'm sorry. I agree with changing the narrative, but I disagree with formulating when I verbalize what I feel is right for me, and I'm communicating that to a white person. I don't feel that I need to put it into their terms so that they can be better. It's not my job to help them be better.
It's not your job to help them be better, but again, you're trying to make a point, and like with them, and that's fine. I think points need to be made and should be made. I think you have to have both types of conversations, but there's some, at some point the conversation has to have direction. There has to be a goal. And if I don't think the goal is for us to be like, haha, I'm right, you're wrong, got you. The more so the goal is to, I need your behavior to change. Like blackness in America isn't going to shift without white change, period. So I think you have, I'm not saying you have to change or like dumb down your verbiage, but if saying black resonates better with like a white audience than Negro, use black. It like that's the type of like verbiage shifts that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about changing your goal, but just words that might be like less buzzwords for them to shut down and just go
I would say that, you know, I'm of the belief that we've had this conversation repeatedly. We're going back to Booker T. Washington and the Atlantic Compromise. We were constantly having to shift and decide whether we want to be the talented or we want to just create our own industries. And even that itself is a dichotomous, you know, black and white conversation. You know, we don't have to curry favor for these people.
What makes you say you don't have to?
I'm saying that because that's self-determinism.
That's not self-determinism. That's not dealing with reality. Because the reality of the situation is you do have to deal with them in the way because they do control your autonomy isn't as free as you think. There's been a lot of progress in Booker T and W. Du Bois on the talented concept. He disputed right before he died because it was a poor concept. Right. And Booker T talks about there is a level of assimilation that is needed in order for progress to be made. It's not to change your focus or your personal, your identity, but you cannot move into a space and just destroy the ideology all at once. That's why Dr. King went about it the way he did. That's why Malcolm X went about it the way he did. He was very stark, and he shifted because it was like, oh shit, I'm trying to get them to behave differently. I'm not really trying to prove my point. My point is history proves my point for me. I need them to change their behavior. So if it means, all right, let me stop saying white devil, I'm going to stop saying white devil. And he did that when he went on the Hajj and saw that there was white Muslims and all these other things. So even he understood that he had to, let me dial it back a little bit. But his message?
I'm clear about the variations and the tone and the semantics that we may have to use. But I'm also clear about the demarcation lines that I've drawn for myself in educating myself about the proximity in which we live to these people. And the language that they speak is a language of violence. It's a language that clearly says that European culture utilizes everything. How should I put this? European culture weaponizes everything. And despite our proximity, despite our language and how we utilize it to showcase to them how good human beings we may be, of course we're going to understand the dynamics of being strategic about moving in close proximity to them. But at some point, we have to decide that we do not want to live in a plantation construct.
Just going back to like your original point, I think you can tell me if I'm wrong. This is what she was trying to say. I think there's a certain amount of we can't give white people too much grace, and I think that happens a lot of times where we try to say things a different way. We may try to change how we look. We may try to, to make them more comfortable. And I think we can't go through life trying to always make white people comfortable because then we diminish ourselves. And that happens a lot of black people in white spaces because then it's like sometimes they can't even recognize who they are anymore because they've been trying to appease, accommodate them.
Can I give you some pushback? Mm-hmm. You work in any space where you had to like teach kids or teach anybody anything, like at the first training you have. So when you're teaching somebody something that they don't know or understand, what do? Do you meet them where they are, or do you stay in a space and use your verbiage? So
I was a teacher's assistant before my career now. So what I would do is I would try to meet them where they are so they could understand me. Exactly. But that's a child I'm dealing with.
Yeah. But
it's a difference.
But some of these ideologies are childlike. They have a childlike and immature nature. So
but I think the comment you made in terms where you say that we have to change our verbiage is triggering. Because when you say that, you look at it like, me as an African American, I have to change my language so that they can understand me. When you look at it towards how they can embrace and understand a lot, and I don't want to be canceled, so but it's always cancel culture. But it's like when they see other races, other sexualities, they're quick to understand and empathize with other races. Like even with the Asian race, when COVID happened, when everybody was attacking a lot of Asians, they made bills for them, they changed it. They were so quick to do that. But when you hear you say, oh, you have to change your verbiage. I'm not from this country, so I say this because a lot of African Americans, they say they struggle. I have a girlfriend of mine where she feels she would never want her son to bring home a white woman because she saw her grandfather was lynched. Or her great-grandfather, I should say, was lynched. They saw a lot of stuff growing up in the South. So there's stuff like I won't understand, but for them it was a lot of struggle. They saw so much hate towards them, and they can't understand that. So for her to be like, wait, I have to change my language, or just change for them to understand me, when right now, in the community right now, you could see them, they've adapted to a lot of Asian cultures, they embrace them, they adapted to LGBTQI communities, they've embraced them, so why can't they meet me and understand my pain, and why suffer what we suffer?
Because unfortunately, that's where we are with the relationship.
But they can't. They just choose not to.
But I think you're taking like what not you in particular. I think it's like taking what I said and like drawing a conclusion that wasn't. So like the rhetoric I'm talking about is the same rhetoric any black leader that is speaking publicly uses to direct a message to masses. You have to change the rhetoric so it's digestible. That's all I'm talking about.
No, I hear what you're saying.
I'm not saying
it's triggering sometimes to some people.
It's triggering and jarring, but this is why rhetoric is important. So I could have said that better so that you received my message better, which I think sort of proves my point, is that in order to drive what I meant, I had an intention that was missed because I used the wrong words. So I could have used better verbiage so that you understood what I meant a little bit, so there wasn't a back and forth. And that's more so what I'm talking about. It's like there are ways to have the conversation to build a better connecting points between people so that you can have a dialogue. I'm not saying to dumb down your blackness. That wasn't even close to what I said.
I think that depends
but I think you can have a conversation that's better.
It's circumstantial, really. If you want to further the conversation. You can say all of that all you want, but let us say that each one of us is in the room or in proximity to a police officer. I don't think that's going to fly. I really don't think. You can use all the proper language you want. It's going to be the same triggering dynamic because a police officer is an agent of the state and has a gun to facilitate his anger and frustration, even if you came across as somebody who's humble and speaks well. And the violence proves that.
The violence proves?
The violence proves that this is a nation of violence. And no matter how you, again, curry favor with white folks, so the group power of white group power, there's still going to be some pushback when it comes to you as an individual, you as in your existence, rather than what you look like and how you speak, despite how you do it.
It's a conflicting ideology for me.
I'm sorry.
It's a conflicting ideology for me to change my verbiage to cater to a white person so that they can, so that what I'm trying to communicate to them appeals to their way of thinking, because it's like they're already on top. Like I need help. They don't need help to understand the struggle. They put me through this struggle. They know exactly what they're doing. They monetize everything. All your struggles, they're benefiting from that. So why is it comes down to, once again, feeling like I'm being put in a position where I need to teach them how to treat me like a human being when they're the ones that dehumanized us. They know exactly how to do and undo that. They just choose not to.
The key word is always, though. I don't think it's like, we're not always speaking like that, right? I think there's times where if you want to get a message across, you gotta say something so that the message can be disseminated, right? I don't think there's like an inherent erasure of blackness that has to happen, but if you want a message to be received, you have to speak in the language of the audience. I think that's the only thing. I don't think it's always like, to say that you have to erase yourself always, it's always going to be problematic. But if you want your message to be received in the moment, you gotta speak the language of the audience. That doesn't mean you have to erase yourself. think it's just a matter of do you want the message received.
I mean, I've seen certain time myself where I think it has somewhat to do with like who's your audience. Like there's certain times when certain messages that you're trying to get through to like somebody in the black community is for your community. It's gonna offend other people. Other people are not gonna like the words that you use and different types of things like that, but it's a very direct message. It's taking the fact that time is going by. We've used certain methods of changing our words, changing the leaders, giving certain people time, saying that certain people were ignorant. But I mean, when you see what's currently going on, there's a certain point when you have to stop knocking on the door, trying to, get into a door and just build your own. And we do know the history of certain things that happened in the past when we try to build our own things. But this is why I feel like there has to be a certain point when you just basically are unapologetic about certain things that you do. Because you're going against something it's not an even playing field. So you're trying to play by the rules of the game that basically says to be fair, to speak a certain type of way, to treat people with respect. But you have a house of your own that if you have that type of information or you have that knowledge about your own self or you care about your people enough, you understand that what's affecting me is affecting my people. I can't just worry about myself. To a certain degree I can, but I have to worry about them also. So there's certain things that I'm going to have to do, like which comes back to your point about the reason why some people pick the people that they picked. Is that the way that we should have to do things, But we understand what the past is, and we understand that, we kind of are behind on a lot of things. So we have to pick a different type of approach. So I don't think that really our biggest problem is the way and how we express ourselves. Because there's enough information out here, the same way I pick up and I learn about my history, they can pick up and learn about their history as well. And sometimes people just have to deal with the hard truth. She could have an experience that I might not take it a certain type of way, but I have to really be listening to what she's talking about. Because if she's speaking in a certain type of way, even though I don't like the language, what is she actually really saying? Am I going to now nullify everything that she said because I didn't like a specific word that you used, but everything else that she said was valid? So it's those types of things with us where sometimes we sit around and we have to change everything about ourselves. And it's sometimes it's nah, it's all right that we might look at a paper and choose one of ourselves over somebody else for a change.
I agree with that 100%. I think black people have spent a lot of this fight trying to be fair in the fight, and the fight has never been fair to us. So totally agree with what you have to say. And I think, in reality, I think you need both things happening at the same time in order for it to really work. You need the fire of Malcolm X and the fire of Dr. King. You need the Gandhis and the Garveys. You need the duality of the experience, because I forget who said it earlier, but the black experience, I think it's on TV, is so nuanced now that there isn't one umbrella to jump on under blackness. You can't just be we're black, let's get together, because my blackness is, I could have grown up and I'm 36 and be I've never experienced racism in my life, so I can't relate to this conversation. Or you could talk to a 17-year-old that grew up in the South and saw real shit I've never seen in New York. And you have to be able to create. So just saying that, I don't disagree with y'all. I think that there's always going to be nuances to how we approach the problems, as long as we leave space for everybody's approach to go through its full process before we're all right, it's not going to work. Because I think our predecessors, the one thing that I don't think they did that well was work together. I think there was a lot of, this is my way, it's going to work this way, and we never came to the table, had a conversation, developed a plan of attack.
I want to say that I don't personally, I speak for myself. There is no absolute answer or solution. And I think we harped on, like she said, it was triggering what you said, so that's the reality. We're all going to have responses, reactions, and reflections. But there is no absolute, this is a continuous conversation. It very much is.
We will not before it changes.
I just wanted to note something I thought was interesting because like we keep throwing around the word fear, but like one of the ways white supremacy works is like it forces you to live in a world where there's a baseline and you're moving against the baseline. Who says the baseline? Like who says that baseline is a fair baseline? Like what we've been doing with picking students E, F, H, we've been picking stuff that relate to us. White people do that same thing. Like it's just whatever group is on top is gonna do the thing that most benefits them. So I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's just like this idea that what's currently here is fear, and we're moving against that is like that's a systematic like white supremacy kind of thing. Because to your point, it's like when you're trying to develop language to speak to who you're trying to fix. It's not about whether or not that's right or wrong. That's just the reality of the situation you're in. But I think we should challenge the fact that like the baseline that we exist in isn't necessarily fair. I don't think any of this has ever been fair. I don't think anything is equal. I don't think there's not one thing that was done in America that was like fair or good or like all white people aren't even white for like a long time.
And I think that's the point that I was highlighting is that when it comes down to it, the base, the minutia, the bottom line is it's the power of definition. It's not even supremacy. It's white pathology. And we got to change the language to what it is. It's not supreme. It's not. It's pathology that we've had to deal with in proximity to them.
You killing me with these words.
You know, we're all passionate. That's what we can say. All of us, you know.
That's a good one.
I think Jabari touched on something. We all pick our students based off of how we can relate to them. Of course, I gave you the averages of their GPAs and SAT scores, but a lot of us, what I'm hearing is picking the students based off what we can resonate with or what we think will perform well in the institution. Is that a correct?
I chose, for example, I'm surprised that student D didn't make it in the top 3. I think they had like second best grades. And I chose student D. I don't remember if they were first, second, or third. But I chose them because this sounds like someone that would work in the government. You know, this sounds like someone that they're not afraid to talk about complex topics. They have the grades to prove that they can back up whatever it is that they're putting out. And they're talking about peace, you know, like, okay, let's put somebody like this behind the mic, you know? So yeah, why did...
I'm in such agreement with you, because I
why did nobody
picked D number 2, I was like...
What's going on?
D was lit, I was like,
Yes.
debate team, like, come on.
So I'd like to know, why the people that did not choose student D, why not?
As number 1.
So student D, based off this poll, was 4th. So that's runner up if we want to consider.
But like, still.
I don't know, like 16 teams.
But I think
C.
D.
It was fun with, you know, one of the weeks to prosper.
Wait, what happened?
But I think it goes back to what you were saying, like everybody picked someone based on their own, you know, idea or marriage. Like, you know, well, there's a story that's to be told, there's power, resilience, but there's also like, you know, the status, like the struggle.
I'm gonna sound real corny. I didn't pick D because I didn't think that was a good personal statement. They didn't talk about their personal statement. Like that was the only reason I didn't even consider any of that. It was just I didn't understand how this related. I thought it was a personal statement, the essay summary. So like I couldn't see any of the statements. So I was like, nah. But they're smart. Like
So
reading.
you want to know that they're human.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know. Like, I don't even know if they like are actually a member of one of these communities that they're talking about. Like,
That's why I didn't pick D.
If they are a member, would that change?
That would have changed.
yeah, that would make it a little bit better.
But also write about that.
Yeah, write about
that. Your whole essay, when I tell my students every day, your essay should be about who you are and what you are going to bring to your institution. Bringing up something that is not even like representative, and like maybe it is, but I can't see that in the summary.
D felt like they were just talking about the topics. I'm sorry. because this is what we're discussing right now.
Right.
It's the hot topic.
Yeah.
So they just ran with it. So I'm like, are they really sincere about this? Or is this just like, it's trendy, so I'm going to deal with this and I'm going to address this. So that's why I didn't put D. It didn't seem like it's, like they're connected in any way. So I didn't think
So
that.
you said that based because you don't know their identity.
Yeah.
So if their identity is disclosed,
Maybe they said how they devastating conflict affected their family, something of that, then I would have been like, oh, okay, I can see the impact. But for me, it felt like D was just going with the wave. Like, this is a topic, I want attention, let me pick this right now. So I was like, I don't know how sincere they really are.
I think it's a matter of not wanting to victimize themselves, or maybe they just don't feel like they have that need to do so. They're just like, I'm fucking smart, and I'm gonna talk about something that nobody else is talking about, or I'm gonna talk about something that everybody's talking about, and I'm showing that like I'm here, you know. But definitely, like talking about yourself in a personal, in the college essay. It's tricky because what are you? Are you a victim? Are you a victimizer? Are you an opportunist? Like, what is it that you're talking about in your essay exactly that makes you better than the next person?
But so I know when I was going to school, I'm the oldest one here. But for our essays, it was always you're supposed to write an essay that connects. So where whoever's reading it, they feel that story. It doesn't matter if you're the victim or what, it was just the story that you're telling. This person must feel like, oh my gosh, I can feel this person, I can connect with them. Or even if it's just a story that you tell, you're like, wow, this is an amazing story. Like, I want this person, I connect with this person. So for me with D, it didn't feel like I connected. It felt very cold to me.
Okay, can I add on to that? Because you said the whole essay thing, and I just finished my first year, so
go ahead.
I know Virginia State University.
that's what
HBCU. But But yeah, I say, okay, when I did my essay, the topic was, what will you do with your degree that you gained from this institution? And I feel like I picked student D because they basically summarize what they accomplished and what they can use with that degree, whatever they gained from that institution. That's why I picked that. I feel like, yes, it might not have been personalized, but it shows what they bring to the table and what they can do after graduating from that institution. That's why I said. So it don't gotta be personalized, it just shows like, this is what I got, this is what I've done, and I can do more after leaving here. Yeah.
It's funny y'all brought up the personal thing, because I'm usually like people don't buy products, they buy from people. So it's like, always sell yourself, and I pick somebody that didn't sell themselves, and I'm like, oh. But I think a lot of it came from, I'm like, I love people that can articulate themselves well and can orate, and if you like more of the debate team captain, you probably are an excellent orator. And like going into university, I think gift the gab is one of like the most underrated skills that determine success. But now I'm like, damn, I don't know. I could pick this guy and walk in and it's like Matthew Klein, blonde hair, blue eyes. It's like, thanks, you know, got it. Good looking. Now I know what's going on, and I'd be pissed. So yeah, that was thank you for bringing it up.
You gonna show us how we go?
Huh?
You gonna show us?
Yeah, we gonna get there.
There's some good people.
Oh,
yeah. You put faces on mine.
So before we move to the next part, does anyone like really know what affirmative action actually means? And if not, I can define it for you. But does anyone want to give their personal opinion on it? Yeah, like the definition of it.
Definition of
thank you.
Yeah, go. What you about to say?
I was gonna say definition of Chat GPT. I was gonna say the definition.
My sources.
The definition of personal opinion, because those are two different things.
Say it again.
You said anybody know the definition of affirmative action or have a personal opinion? on
Give me the definition of affirmative action. And then give me the one after.
Well, basically, first thing about affirmative action, I feel like affirmative action isn't really taught to us, you know, like while we're in school. But it's a question that I got in high school about affirmative action. Like, what are your thoughts on affirmative action? And I think it's kind of, and this might be sound like 1960, 1970 language, but it's like a mental trick bag that they use with affirmative action, because they would ask a student that's 14, 15, 16 years old, 17 years old, usually a black student, you know, what are your thoughts on affirmative action? Do you think that you're good enough to get in this college or this school, or with your grades and, you know, all the things you've done in high school by just being yourself? You know, and they don't give you the background of what affirmative action really is and how it started, because nobody black was getting into any school. You know, it wasn't PWI, it was just W, white. So it was, you don't get the history on what affirmative action tried to do to allow black students into schools, because they were being excluded out of schools fully, or they had to go to fully black schools, which didn't have as many resources and didn't have as many opportunities.